When people ask me why I don't go home for the holidays anymore, I just smile and say, I've got everything I need right here. What I don't tell them is that everything I need fits in a single kitchen drawer, a few spices, a metal pot, and, of course, a couple packs of ramen. Sounds sad, right? But to me, that drawer represents peace. My name's Joel, I'm 29, and I'm the black sheep of my family. Not because I did something scandalous or unforgivable, but because I never played their game. Growing up, I was always the weird one. I liked books more than sports, volunteered at the library instead of going to parties, and actually enjoyed being alone. My older brother, Marcus, was the golden boy. Star quarterback, loud, charming, every teacher's favorite even when he failed tests. My little sister, Kayla, was the baby and knew exactly how to cry her way out of anything. Me? I was invisible, unless they needed someone to blame for something going missing or to mow the lawn because Marcus was busy training and Kayla had cramps again. I moved out as soon as I could. Full ride to a state college 3 hours away, which was the farthest I could get without losing the scholarship. I worked part-time in the campus IT department, did freelance coding gigs online, and managed to graduate with zero debt. That alone shocked my parents. Wait, you're not taking out loans? Who's paying for your food? My mom had asked over the phone like I'd just told her I'd joined a cult. When I said I was budgeting and cooking for myself, there was this pause before she muttered, well, I guess ramen and hot dogs are still food. It was always like that. Every small win I had was either ignored or mocked. When Marcus dropped out of college to start his own business, which basically meant selling MLM protein shakes for 6 months, my parents still framed his decision as bold and entrepreneurial. When Kayla failed 2 semesters in a row but posted a cute selfie at graduation pretending she'd made it, Mom proudly reposted it, with so proud of our little genius. But when I got promoted to a full-time role at a tech company straight out of college, I told them over dinner and Dad blinked, then asked, so, what exactly do you do again? Fix computers? Still, I kept trying. I'd show up to family birthdays with gifts I'd spent weeks planning and saving for. Like the time I got Marcus a signed jersey from his favorite team, only for him to smirk and say, didn't you just get promoted? I thought you'd be able to afford something better. Or when I took Kayla out for a spa day for her 24th birthday, and she posted about it on Instagram like it was from her boyfriend instead. No tag, no mention. But the thing that really did it, the moment that carved a permanent line between me and them, happened last Christmas. I decided, against my better judgment, to spend the holidays back home. I hadn't been there in 2 years and thought maybe, just maybe, things would be different. I'd gotten everyone thoughtful gifts again, even nicer this time. For Mom, a custom necklace with all our birthstones. For Dad, a high-end whiskey tasting set. For Kayla, a pair of noise-canceling headphones she'd been eyeing. And for Marcus, a smartwatch because he kept bragging about his new fitness routine. I wrapped everything myself. Even used those little hand-tied bows and tags with their names in calligraphy, something I'd picked up watching crafting videos when I was bored. When I walked in on Christmas Eve, arms full of gifts, Mom barely looked up from her phone. Dad grunted from the recliner. Kayla yelled from the kitchen, hope you didn't get me clothes again, Joel. I'm not a grandma. I laughed it off. This was normal. Rude, but familiar. We had dinner, exchanged small talk, and eventually got to the gift exchange. They had all their gifts stacked in a pyramid by the tree, big glossy boxes with ribbons, designer bags, and stacked electronics. Mine weren't even in the same pile. They were shoved off to the side, like misfit toys in a discount aisle. But I didn't say anything. I sat down and handed out my gifts, one by one. I watched them open them, feign polite reactions, then move on. Kayla didn't even open the headphones in front of me. Thanks, Joel, she said, already opening something shiny from her boyfriend. Marcus opened the smartwatch and said, oh, cool, then tossed it onto the couch like it was a pack of gum. My mom opened the necklace, blinked, then said, oh, that's sweet, and immediately went back to helping Kayla unbox her new iPhone. Then it was my turn. They handed me one small gift, wrapped in the comics section of the newspaper. No card, no bow, just a single, crinkled square. I already had a bad feeling, but I smiled and opened it anyway. It was a single pack of ramen. Beef flavor. The cheapest kind. I blinked. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. But then Marcus burst out laughing, followed by Kayla snorting into her mimosa. That's all you can afford to eat anyway, right? Marcus said between wheezes. We figured it was, what do they call it? On brand. Even Dad laughed. Mom tried to shush them, but was giggling herself. I looked around, stunned. Not angry, just hollow. I didn't say anything. I didn't get up. I didn't throw it back at them. I just sat there, holding the ramen, nodding slowly like I'd just been told the punchline of a bad joke I should have seen coming. I stayed for exactly 12 more hours. Long enough to sleep on the lumpy couch and wake up to the smell of cinnamon rolls I wasn't offered. Long enough to see Kayla post a group photo captioned, "Christmas with my faves," that I wasn't in. Long enough for Marcus to throw a pillow at me and say, "Hey Ramen Man, don't forget to take your present with you." I took it. When I got home, I put the pack in that drawer. Not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. A reminder of where I stood, of how little I mattered to them. And slowly, quietly, I stopped answering texts. I stopped replying to Kayla's passive-aggressive DMs asking why I wasn't liking her photos anymore. I ignored Marcus's requests to grab a drink and catch up. I even muted the family group chat when my mom sent a selfie of them all at a winery and captioned it, "Family is everything." I didn't even block them. I just let the silence grow. Months passed. I got a raise at work, moved into a nicer apartment, bought myself a real espresso machine, not because I needed it, but because it felt good to buy something expensive just for me. I started going to the gym, signed up for dance classes, and even started dating someone new. My life, finally, wasn't orbiting around whether or not I got a text from Kayla or if my mom had posted something I wasn't tagged in. I was finally my own person. And then, almost exactly a year later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Kayla called. Then Dad. Then Marcus. Finally, I got a text from Mom. Just 4 words. "We need your help." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. There was a longer message inside. Something about how the house was at risk. Dad had lost some money in a bad investment. Marcus's side hustle had collapsed, and Kayla had apparently wrecked her credit co-signing a lease for a friend who ghosted her. The bank was rejecting their refinancing request unless they had a co-signer with a high credit score. And wouldn't you know it, I was the only one who qualified. I didn't respond right away. I didn't even know what I wanted to say, but I could feel something deep in my chest click into place, like a puzzle piece I hadn't known was missing. And then I knew. I had the perfect response. But before I tell you what I said, let me rewind just a little bit. Because what came next, the phone calls, the guilt tripping, the unexpected visit, was just the beginning of something much bigger and much messier. They didn't stop at the first text. Within a day, my phone was lighting up nonstop. The messages started simple, just explanations and questions. "Joel, your dad's under a lot of stress. Hey man, can we talk? Please, it's urgent." But then they morphed. Mom sent a long paragraph about families sticking together during hard times, with emojis and all. Marcus tried the guilt route, something like, "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." And Kayla, ever the drama queen, went straight for the manipulation. "I'm literally shaking, Joel. If they lose the house, it'll be your fault." That part stuck with me. Your fault. I read those words over and over. Not, "We made mistakes." Not, "Can you help us fix this?" But, "Your fault." Funny how quick the blame shifts when they need you. I didn't answer for 2 more days. Then Dad called. I hadn't heard his voice since Christmas. Not even a birthday text in between. He didn't say hi. Or how are you? Just launched straight into, "Joel, your mother's worried sick. You know how much that house means to her. We built our life there." I stayed quiet. Then he added, "And look, I know you don't have a family of your own, but one day you'll understand. You don't let your family drown just because of a bad Christmas joke." A joke. That's what he called it. So I asked, would you call it a joke if someone gave you ramen while laughing at your financial situation in front of everyone? He paused. I heard him exhale through his nose. "You're too sensitive. Always have been. That's your problem." I didn't hang up. I just let the silence stretch until he muttered, "Well, if you won't help us, we'll figure it out ourselves." Click. That would have been a good ending. But it wasn't the end. It was just the start of the unraveling. 3 days later, I came home from work and found a letter taped to my apartment door. My stomach dropped. Not because of what it said. I hadn't even read it yet. But because no one knew where I lived. I had moved after college, then again 6 months ago. I hadn't shared the new address with anyone except my HR department, landlord, and close friends. No family. No parents. No siblings. I peeled the envelope off the door and took it inside. My name was written on the front in black marker. Inside, one single page. We stopped by since you won't answer your phone. I hope you're just busy. We're staying at the motel off Redwood Highway. Please call us. Mom. My pulse was hammering. I looked out the window. No car. No movement. Just the same quiet street. That weekend, I avoided leaving my apartment except to get groceries late at night. I blocked their numbers, even temporarily disabled my voicemail. I was ready to wait it out. Then came Monday. I walked into work a little late, Monday traffic, and stopped in the lobby when I saw our receptionist waving me over. Hey Joel, you've got visitors upstairs. I blinked. Visitors? She nodded. An older couple. Said they're your parents. I told them they couldn't wait in the lobby and they asked for your department. They seemed nice, kind of stressed. I stared at her for a second before forcing a smile. Thanks. I'll handle it. When I reached my floor, my heart dropped. There they were, sitting outside the conference room, like they were waiting for a job interview. My mother stood the second she saw me. Joel, finally. Dad stayed seated, arms crossed like he was a CEO about to fire someone. Are you seriously doing this? I asked, barely managing to keep my voice down. Mom reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Joel, we wouldn't have come if it weren't serious. They're going to foreclose on the house in 30 days. We don't have time. That's not my problem, I said. You're our son, she said, voice cracking. We gave you everything. Everything. I almost laughed. You gave me hand-me-downs and guilt trips. You gave Marcus a car at 17 and told me to get a bus pass. You threw me under the bus for every missed chore, every bad grade that wasn't mine. I didn't even get a real Christmas gift until I moved out. She blinked. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is sitting at a dinner table with people who treat you like a stranger. What's not fair is giving you all expensive, personalized gifts and getting instant noodles in return while you laugh at me. And you want me to fix your mortgage. By then, a few coworkers were pretending not to watch. I didn't care. Dad finally stood. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being clear, I said. Leave. Now, or I'm calling security. Mom's face flushed. You do that? To your own parents? Already did it once, I said. When I left home. They didn't move right away. But eventually, Dad grabbed his coat, muttered something under his breath, and pulled her away. The receptionist didn't ask any questions when they left. But my manager pulled me aside later that day. Everything okay? He asked gently. I nodded. Family stuff. He gave a knowing smile. Been there. I thought that was the end. Really. I'd set my boundary. I'd stood my ground. Then Kayla posted a story that same night. It was a screenshot of my company's website. A picture of me in the employee spotlight section. Under it, she'd written, "Too busy being the golden child now, huh? Must be nice." The next one was worse. A boomerang of my parents in the motel parking lot, hugging each other with sad music in the background. Captioned, "Some people forget who raised them." The comments were brutal. Her friends piling on. One wrote, "Can't believe your brother turned out like that. Gross." Another said, "I'd be ashamed if my kid left me homeless." I didn't respond. I didn't post anything. But I watched. And it only got worse. Marcus got in on it too. He posted a meme of a guy stepping over another guy drowning, with "Me when my parents are homeless" as the caption and Joel labeled over the guy stepping. They turned it into a whole narrative. The ungrateful son. The selfish tech bro. The one who forgot where he came from. Even distant relatives started texting me. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. One aunt left a voicemail saying, "Joel, whatever's going on, you need to make it right. Your parents are devastated." The next week, I got a certified letter in the mail. An actual letter. They were getting creative. It was from a lawyer. Apparently, my parents were trying to list me as a financial reference for the refinancing loan, without my consent. They'd submitted paperwork claiming I'd verbally agreed, hoping the bank wouldn't check. The bank did check. And now the lawyer was representing the bank, informing me of the fraudulent attempt and requesting a signed denial to protect myself. That was when it really hit me. They hadn't just crossed a line. They detonated it. All the guilt tripping, the public humiliation, the "we're still your family" rhetoric, it was just bait. And when that didn't work, they tried to force it. Legally. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the ramen pack in front of me. It was still there, unopened, wrinkled at the edges, but intact. And I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet. All the family dinners where I swallowed my pride. The holidays where I showed up hoping for scraps of warmth, and the years I'd spent thinking maybe next time will be different. I looked at that pack of noodles like it was an old scar. Small, almost ridiculous, but still there. And for the first time, I smiled. Because I finally knew exactly what I was going to do. But before I tell you that, you need to know what happened when I walked into that motel the next day. I wasn't planning to go to the motel. Not at first. After the lawyer's letter, I figured the smart move was to keep my distance. Block them. Ignore the noise. Stay out of it entirely. That's what the rational version of me wanted. But there was this part of me, this stubborn, aching, still sore part, that needed to see it. Not just the damage they'd done or the lies they told, but them. In person. No more screens. No middleman. Just face-to-face, stripped of theatrics. So I drove to the Redwood Highway Motel on a gray Saturday morning. It had rained the night before, and the pavement was still wet, giving the entire place a washed-out, hollow look. The sign buzzed with half-lit neon, and I counted 6 cars in the parking lot, none of them familiar. Room 107. I knew because I saw Kayla's blurry Instagram post earlier in the week. She'd posted some dramatic crying selfie with the room number barely visible in the corner of the door. Maybe she thought I wouldn't notice. Maybe she wanted me to. I knocked once. Then again, louder. It took a minute, but eventually, the door creaked open. My mother stood in a pink bathrobe and slippers, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes. She looked older, tired, but not surprised. "Joel," she said, like she'd been expecting this moment. Thank God. I didn't say anything. She stepped aside, and I walked in. The room was small, stale, and cramped. One king bed, messy and half-made. Takeout containers on the desk. An open suitcase in the corner. The air smelled faintly of old coffee and stress. Dad was sitting at the edge of the bed, scrolling through something on his phone. He looked up when I entered, eyes narrowing, then quickly going blank. He didn't greet me, just pocketed his phone and leaned back, like he was bracing himself. I didn't sit. "You forged my name," I said calmly. "To a bank." Dad grunted. "It wasn't forging. We just told them what we planned. You weren't returning our calls." "You lied," I said. "To a financial institution. And you dragged me into it." "We were desperate," Mom said softly. "We didn't mean for it to get that far. We thought once you understood, you'd say yes. You thought pressuring me into a financial commitment by using my identity behind my back would make me more agreeable?" I asked. She winced. "It wasn't like that." "It was like that," I said. "And you know it." They didn't deny it. For a few seconds, it was silent except for the faint hum of the motel fridge. Then Dad stood up, slowly. "You came all the way here to yell at us." "No," I said. "I came here to make something clear." I pulled the lawyer's letter from my coat pocket and dropped it on the desk. Mom flinched when she saw the envelope. "You will never, ever put my name on anything again. You will not reach out to my employer, my landlord, my bank, or anyone even remotely connected to me. You will not text my friends. You will not send me letters. You will not show up at my office." I paused. "You are not entitled to my help. You forfeited that the moment you turned my life into a punchline," and laughed while I swallowed it. "Joel," Mom whispered, tears brimming. "You're making this bigger than it has to be." "No," I snapped. "I'm making it exactly as big as it needs to be." Dad scoffed. "You think you're better than us now?" I stared at him. "No. I think I'm just done pretending you ever respected me." I turned and walked out without another word. They didn't follow me. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. Honestly, I felt empty, because saying the words, drawing the boundary, didn't erase the years I spent wishing they would just see me. It didn't take away the ache of being the afterthought, the scapegoat, the easy one to blame when the golden child and the princess messed up. I drove home in silence, the rain starting again, soft and steady against the windshield like the sky was trying to console me. When I got home, I made ramen. Not the cheap kind they gave me, but a fancy Korean-style version I'd picked up from a specialty market. I added soft-boiled eggs, sesame oil, green onions. I made it beautiful, rich, worthy, and I ate it at my kitchen table, alone, but not lonely. That was the beginning of my rebuild. I didn't post about it. I didn't make a big announcement. I just started making choices that didn't include them. First, I changed my number. Not just blocked them, changed it. New SIM, new carrier. Gave the number only to people who earned it. Then, I got serious about therapy. I'd always brushed it off before, Figured I could outgrow the trauma or logic it away. But I booked a session and then another. And then I committed to 6 months, then a year. Talking through the patterns, the favoritism, the gaslighting, it cracked something open inside me that I hadn't realized was still bleeding. The therapist asked me once, "What did you need from them that you never got?" And I said, without thinking, to be enough. Without the performance. He nodded. Didn't say anything. Just let that sit. Work got better too. I stopped overperforming. I used to take on every project, every overtime offer, just to prove I was valuable. But now, I started saying no, protecting my time. And oddly enough, people respected me more for it. I also reconnected with some college friends I hadn't seen in years. They remembered me as quiet but loyal, always showing up with a charger or a bottle of water when no one asked. One of them, Liana, invited me to a game night she was hosting. That turned into regular brunches, then hikes, then weekend trips. She never asked about my family. And that, somehow, made me want to tell her. We started dating in the spring. She liked that I was calm, that I listened, that I didn't try to impress her with stories or big plans. She said I made her feel safe. And for the first time, I realized I felt safe too. There were still hard days. Days when I wondered if I was being too harsh. If maybe I should have just signed the form, let them save the house, swallowed my pride again like I had so many times before. But every time I had those thoughts, I remembered the motel room. The smell. The silence. The way my dad looked at me like I owed him something just for existing. I kept the ramen packet, still in that same drawer. But now, I'd started adding to the drawer too. A handwritten note from Liana that said, "You matter to me." A tiny rock I picked up from the beach on our first weekend trip. A Polaroid from brunch with my friends, me actually smiling in the center. That drawer, once a symbol of mockery, was becoming a kind of time capsule of the life I was building on my terms. And then one day, about 10 months after that motel visit, I got a letter. Not a text, not a voicemail, an actual letter. It was addressed by hand. No return address. I opened it slowly, sitting at my kitchen table, heart thudding. Inside were two things. One, a photo of my childhood home. Empty. Foreclosed. Overgrown lawn. For sale sign in the corner of the frame. Two, a note. "You got what you wanted. Hope you're happy. We have nowhere now." No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. My father's. I stared at the photo for a long time. Not because I felt joy or revenge or satisfaction, but because I didn't feel guilty. And for me, that was a bigger win than anything else. Still, I didn't respond. I didn't post about it. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I folded the photo and the letter, placed them in the drawer with the ramen, and closed it. The past was a lesson, not a home. But I wasn't quite done. Because a week later, something unexpected happened. Marcus emailed me. Not messaged, emailed. Like a stranger would. Subject line, about mom and dad. And what he wrote changed everything. Marcus's email was surprisingly formal. No emojis. No jabs. Just plain black text on a white screen. It was short, but each sentence landed like a stone in my chest. "Hey Joel, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to clear something up. You're right, we screwed up. I screwed up. But there's something you don't know. Mom and Dad didn't lose the house just because of a bad investment. They lied about that. The truth is, they pulled out a second mortgage 2 years ago and used your name as a reference back then. Without asking. I didn't know until I saw the papers last week. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I thought you deserved to know. Marcus." I sat there frozen for a full minute. Then I reread it. Then again. It didn't make sense until it did. The random phone calls about Joel's job at the bank. The weird comments Dad made about my good standing. The fact that my credit score dropped slightly last year, and I'd chalked it up to a hard pull I'd forgotten about. I hadn't thought to dig deeper. Who would? But now I was furious. I didn't respond to Marcus right away. I didn't trust him, not fully. But I started digging. First, I pulled my credit report. Not just a free summary, the full version. I went line by line. And there it was. A loan dated 22 months back. A second mortgage. I wasn't listed as a co-signer, but I was listed as a verbal reference. And in the notes, verified employment and income via personal confirmation. Personal confirmation, meaning someone pretended to be me. I felt sick. My mind raced with 1,000 what-ifs. What if they'd defaulted sooner? What if the bank had come after me? What if they had ruined my score when I was trying to buy my apartment? They hadn't just disrespected me. They'd impersonated me. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I kept playing it over in my head. Every moment of trust I'd extended. Every gift I'd given. Every dinner where I bit my tongue. Every phone call I answered just because they were family. And they'd used my name like a credit card. The next morning, I called Marcus. He picked up on the second ring. Joel, how long have you known? A pause. Then, about 2 weeks. I found the paperwork in Mom's filing box. Why didn't you tell me then? I didn't know if you'd even read it. I figured, better to send something than nothing. I wanted to yell, but I didn't. I breathed. In, out. Why now? I asked. He hesitated. Because they're planning something worse. My stomach dropped. What? They're trying to get a reverse mortgage. On Grandma's old cabin. The cabin. I hadn't thought about that place in years. Nestled up in the mountains, it was the only property in the family that wasn't tainted by drama. My grandmother used to take us up there during summers. Campfires. S'mores. Silence. After she passed, the property went into a trust. No one lived there, but it stayed in the family's name. It wasn't worth millions, but it was paid off. Untouched. Sacred. Who owns it now? I asked. Technically, Marcus said. You. And me. I froze. What? Grandma added our names to the deed. Quietly. Years ago. Said she didn't trust our parents not to sell it when she was gone. I remembered her once saying, your parents think everything's for sale. Don't let them touch this place. I thought it was just an old woman's rambling. Apparently not. Marcus went on. They found out about the deed last month. I think they're trying to challenge it. Claim undue influence or something. But if we're not careful, they might find a way around it. Especially if you don't show up to dispute it. My hands curled into fists. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. You're serious, I said. I wouldn't lie about this, Marcus replied. Not now. He sounded sincere. I hung up and immediately pulled up the property records. Sure enough, my name was on the deed, along with Marcus's. And there, on the county clerk's site, was a pending petition to remove non-parental parties from the property due to misfiled documentation. Filed by our parents. That was the moment I stopped being heard and started getting strategic. I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to make sure they never pulled anything like this again. First, I lawyered up. I found a quiet, sharp real estate attorney named Carmen who specialized in family disputes. She read the documents, nodded once, and said, yeah, this smells like desperation. They'll lie, I warned. They've done it before. I'm counting on it, she replied. Next, I talked to Marcus again. This time, I met him in person. Neutral territory, coffee shop in the city. No drama. Just facts. He looked different. Tired. He'd lost weight. Didn't wear his usual cocky smirk. I didn't think you'd show, he said when I sat down. I almost didn't. He gave a small, humorless laugh. Fair. We talked for over 2 hours. I asked questions. I pushed. He answered everything. No dodging. No excuses. Turns out, Marcus wasn't as golden as everyone thought. His side hustles had been failing for years. He'd borrowed money from our parents, then from sketchy lenders. When that dried up, he sold off old belongings, tried crypto, failed. Now he was working a basic office job, barely staying afloat. They called me a disappointment, he said. Just like they used to call you. I didn't say anything. He looked at me. I know I'm late to the party. I know I was awful to you growing up. You were, I said. I wish I could undo it. You can't. He nodded. But I can help now. And he did. He signed a formal affidavit confirming our parents' unauthorized use of my name. He wrote a timeline. He gave Carmen access to the old loan documents, even handed over scanned letters our parents had sent him, some of which indirectly proved they knew what they were doing. With that ammo, Carmen filed a formal cease and desist. She also petitioned the court to reinforce the current deed, attaching evidence that it was signed intentionally and lawfully by our grandmother. And I wasn't done. I went deeper. I pulled my old texts, emails, every receipt. I built a digital paper trail of years of disrespect, manipulation, and now, financial deceit. Carmen said it wasn't just useful for this case. It could also shield me from future attempts if they ever tried to touch my identity again. I even filed a fraud alert with all 3 credit bureaus, just in case. But the most satisfying part wasn't legal. It was personal. I created a new trust, Joel and Marcus Cabin Trust, legally separate from any other family holdings. No one could sell the cabin. No one could remortgage it. And should anything happen to me or Marcus, Ownership would pass to charity, not to our parents, not to Kayla, not to anyone who tried to manipulate us. I signed it. Marcus signed it. And then I sent a copy, just a copy, to my parents. No note, no message, just the document. A week later, my mom emailed me. Joel, please. You don't understand. We were scared. We didn't know what else to do. I didn't respond. A day after that, she left a voicemail. I can't believe you'd give up on your own family. We're still your parents. You don't throw people away over one mistake. But it wasn't one mistake. It was all of them. It was every comment, every lie, every time they made me feel like I was only worth something if I was useful. And now, I was finally free. But I wasn't done. Because something else was brewing, something they didn't see coming. And it involved Kayla. Because while they were busy trying to steal from the past, I had just found something in the future they didn't know about yet. And it was going to change everything. 3 months after the cabin was officially locked into the trust, I got a call from Carmen. They filed a motion to reverse the deed transfer, she said, already annoyed. They're arguing that your grandmother was mentally unfit when she added your names. It's flimsy, but not without risk if it gains traction. I rubbed my forehead. Do they have a lawyer? Barely. Some cut-rate guy from out of county. I think they're bluffing. They always bluff, I muttered. Until they don't. I hung up and sat with it. The anger had faded by now, replaced by something colder. Sharper. I'd drawn the line. Protected my name, my assets. But they were still circling, still trying to claw something from me. And that's when I remembered something Kayla once said, almost offhandedly, at a family dinner 2 years ago. If anything ever happens to the house, I'm first in line for the insurance payout. Grandma made sure of it. She knew Mom and Dad would screw it up eventually. At the time, it just seemed like more of her typical smugness. But now, in context, it clicked. She had been named a beneficiary. Grandma never trusted our parents. But Kayla had always played the favorite, always aligned herself with whoever had the most power. It made sense. And if Kayla stood to gain financially from the house falling apart, she might not be as passive in all this as she let on. I started digging. And what I found was interesting. Turns out Kayla wasn't just struggling with credit because of a bad lease. She was in the red from 2 maxed-out credit cards, behind on a car loan, and her influencer lifestyle was almost entirely funded by pay-later apps and handouts from my parents. But more importantly, I found out she had recently filed her own petition, quietly, to claim full control of Grandma's cabin trust, arguing that Marcus and I were unfit to manage the property. So while our parents were attacking from the front, Kayla had been sneaking around the back. I didn't react. Not outwardly. Instead, I set my plan in motion. Step 1 was simple: leverage visibility. I'd spent years letting them control the narrative. I was done with that. I created a detailed paper trail. Copies of the forged reference forms, Marcus's affidavit, the property documents, screenshots of Kayla's filing, and the shady reverse mortgage paperwork. I compiled it into a single, professional PDF dossier. Then I sent it to every extended family member I still had contact with. Aunts, uncles, cousins. No dramatic message. Just a polite cover letter. Hi everyone. I hope you're well. I know some of you have reached out over the past year, wondering why I've been distant. I'm attaching documentation that explains everything more clearly than I can in words. I'm not asking you to take sides, just to see the full picture. With respect, Joel. Step 2, the cabin audit. Carmen arranged for an independent inspection of the cabin to establish its historical value, utility, and status as a protected inheritance property. This wasn't just to strengthen our legal claim. It was a prelude to registering the cabin as a historical site. If successful, it would legally bar any form of development, sale, or mortgage against the property forever. But that wasn't the fun part. The fun part was the interview with the local paper. I didn't give them names, but I shared my story. About a young man whose family tried to forge documents, steal an inheritance, and manipulate financial systems to strip him of the only legacy his late grandmother wanted to leave behind. The journalist ate it up. She called it a quiet war over property and pride. It wasn't a viral expose, but it made the front page of the Sunday Local, with a photo of the cabin in fall colors, golden leaves all around. Guess who subscribed to that paper? My parents. And Kayla. Step 3, the final trap. I knew they'd retaliate. That was the point. I was done being defensive. I wanted them to lash out. So I baited them. I filed a quiet notice of property improvements with the county. Just a permit request, nothing flashy. It would be public record. It suggested we were planning to renovate the cabin and possibly lease it out to a wellness retreat program. The moment that hit the county site, the emails started coming in. First from my parents, threatening legal action, accusing me of profiting off stolen land. Then from Kayla. Hers was more dramatic. You think Grandma wanted you to turn her sacred place into some hippie Airbnb? You don't deserve that cabin. You never even liked going there. But the best part? In her rage, she forwarded a thread of emails between her and our parents. In it, they openly discussed using my name to secure the second mortgage. Joel will never find out. Faking cognitive decline in Grandma's old medical files to challenge the deed. A backup plan to burn the cabin to the ground and collect insurance if all else fails. She didn't realize I was CC'd. She didn't realize I was watching. I printed everything. Then Carmen and I filed an official criminal complaint for identity theft, fraudulent use of a financial reference, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. The investigation took 6 weeks. They tried to weasel out of it, claimed the emails were jokes, said they never meant to follow through. Their lawyer tried to claim family disputes shouldn't be criminalized. But the banks didn't find it funny. Neither did the county. Kayla's influencer deals vanished overnight when the story hit Reddit. Not by me, but by someone in our extended family who'd seen the dossier and recognized one of her emails. Brands dropped her. Sponsors ghosted her. She posted a teary, shaky video titled, "I'm being cyberbullied by my own brother," but by then, no one cared. The police didn't arrest my parents. White-collar crime rarely looks like that. But the fraud charges stuck. They were fined. Heavily. Their credit destroyed. The reverse mortgage canceled. Their bank froze their joint accounts pending further review. They lost everything. The house. Gone. The cabin. Registered historical landmark. Untouchable. Now protected under the Joel and Marcus Foundation. A name we chose deliberately, knowing it would boil their blood every time they saw it. Marcus? He's different now. Humble. Quiet. We're not best friends. But we're allies. And that's more than I ever expected. Me? I kept going. New job. New apartment. Still with Liana, who stood by me through every tense phone call, every legal filing, every bitter late-night monologue. She says I'm calmer now. More sure of myself. I think she's right. Last week, I received a package. No return address. Inside, a single item. A pack of ramen. Same brand. Same flavor. Beef. There was no note. But I didn't need one. I took it into the kitchen, opened the drawer, placed it next to the original one, and smiled. They thought the ramen was a joke, but it turned out to be a prophecy, because now, I'm the one who gets to laugh.